Hello, good day. My name is Richard John de la Cruz, and today I'm going to be sharing you the outline of my story entitled Hang the Moon for Me. This is an original story by me, and I'm currently developing it into a novel. Now let's meet the main characters of my story. Cody Baltimore is the 13-year-old boy who was against showing emotions, feelings, and softness towards his male peers. Wade Gilligan is another 13-year-old boy who wants a best friend to cling on to since he never felt love from his father his whole life. Finch Baltimore is Cody's father, who has an immense case of homophobia since childhood and is giving sparse attention to Cody. Randy Gilligan is Wade's father, who is also hardly showing affection or love towards Wade and is always hurting him and his sisters. Pastor Brent Burns is a local church preacher who sheds Cody some light on God's real definition of masculinity. And Dane Church is Cody's writing consultant and book publishing agent. The story is set in Beaufort, Georgia in 1964. Now let's go to the outline of my story. Set in the year of 1964 in Beaufort, Georgia, the story starts with 13-year-old Cody Baltimore submitting a book to his publishing agent, Dane Church. Dane criticizes the pen name Cody chose and suggests that he change it. Cody then says that he will think about it. Cody spends his whole life in a homophobic mentality. Most of the time, Cody finds it hard to show compassion towards his male peers, and he and his friends would laugh and mock men they see doing less manly things and call them faggots. One day, his friend Terrence goes to the bathroom and sees another boy crying after being traumatized by a bad day. The boy cries on his chest, but instead of comforting him, Terrence calls him weak for crying, saying that men are supposed to be strong and are not supposed to cry. One night at the carnival, Cody and his friends spot two 18-year-old teenagers, Travis Pierce and Buck Jules, and decide to follow them. When they stop to sit in the back of an F-150, Cody tosses a dynamite at them, injuring one of them. A police car instantly arrives at the scene and picks them up. At the police station, Cody says his intentions for doing that was, this world is no place for soft men. Their parents then instantly pick them up. Cody's father, Finch, immediately scolds him for his wrongdoing. The next morning, Cody sees Finch leaving again. Cody tries to argue with them, telling him he has never spent enough time with them ever since he was a child. Cody then sees a man with two girls and a boy of his age arrive at a house in front of them. Cody asks their township Lord Parker if he knows the names of the newcomers, and he says the man's name is Randy Gilligan, her daughters are Rosemary and Daisy Gilligan, and his son is Wade Gilligan. For the following days, Cody would often see Wade everywhere in town. Unlike him, Wade is bubbly, caring towards other people, and comfortable showing affection towards other boys. So, oftentimes, every time Wade and him almost get close, he tries his best to avoid him. That night, Wade reads his scrapbook named My Book of Life Goals, which contains the places he wants to visit and the things he wants to accomplish in his life. He hugs the book and goes back to his sleep. The next night, Wade's father, Randy, comes home drunk and sees no food prepared at the table. He asks his children to go upstairs to their bedroom. Randy locks the bedroom and starts hitting them with his whipping belt. And as soon as he finishes, Wade hugs his sisters. The next day, in Wade's class, the teacher asked him to draw their dreams on a sheet of paper. The teacher then notices that Wade had drawn out his ambitions, but a heart. She asks what Wade's dream is, and tells us that he has no ambition, but to have someone that will make him feel love, which he never felt his whole life. Wade then tries to develop a friendship with a baker boy named Harvey. However, Harvey mocks him later on and tells him he could only have one friend. Next, he tries to be friends with a pawn shop owner's son named Zach, but he later squirts him with sandwich mustard and says Wade doesn't deserve to be his friend. Then, he makes a bond with a newspaper boy named Vince. However, after a week, he and his family move away from the town. Wade would then notice that he and Cody's bedroom windows were just in front of each other. Wade watches Cody from his window and smiles. The next week, Wade is invited by Mayor Eddie Tejano to tell a story in the foundation day of the town. After his number, a lady asks him if he has any plans to become a book writer in the future, to which he replies yes. Meanwhile, a new student gets introduced in Cody's class. He immediately introduces himself as Danny Hooligan. When Danny was younger, he lost both of his parents to a car accident, which is why he also has a huge desire for a long and lasting friendship. As days pass by, Danny starts to yearn about earning Cody's friendship, so he tries to find a way to get his attention. Sheriff Louis then calls Cody to his office and says that his fine for his misconduct with Travis and Buck will be a 1 week worth of community service tasks. Danny hears about this, and he gives Cody help with it. They finish it in no less than 2 days, and this gains Cody's affection. They would then regularly spend time together in their Reg's uncle's brother owns. They would also make it a habit to fish in Capillaria Lake to go down there every afternoon. It wasn't long until Finch started to notice Cody was getting too close to Danny. He then reminds him that men are not supposed to show affection towards each other because then society will look down on them. Their friendship would go on for 3 months until Danny takes Cody on top of the water tower and asks him if he wants to be his best friend. Cody gets overwhelmed and says a straight no, and he ceases to talk to Danny, and they have never bonded to each other again afterwards. 2 days later, Cody goes to Danny's house to supposedly apologize for casting him up. However, he learns Danny and his uncle has already moved to Tennessee. Cody then visits Travis and asks him if he has recovered from his injury. At first, Travis wants Cody to get out of his house. However, Cody tells him he feels self-resentment for what he did to him. Travis then proceeds to tell Cody about his friendship with Buck and why he chose to have closeness with and show affection with Buck despite that they couldn't really be anything more than friends. Travis then asks Cody to join him and Buck to spend a day in the countryside, to which he says yes. 2 days later, Cody, Travis, and Buck took a drive outside country roads outside of town and would stop from time to time to pick fruits, lay down the wheat fields, eat, and drink wine. Throughout this trip, Cody observes how the two best friends don't have a problem cuddling, hugging, and even kissing. One day, after his neighbor Stewart encountered a flat tire halfway through town, he asked Cody to carry his goods from the trunk of his car to his house. Cody, unable to keep his balance, trips and the goods fall. Wade sees this and rushes to help Cody. Wade and Cody then introduced themselves to each other. The following week, Wade and Cody were informed about being coincidentally casted as the two main characters in the school's play night. Throughout the rehearsals, it was very clear that both of them don't really get along well. However, they eventually learn to be comfortable with each other. But in the part of the actual play, where their characters had to hug, Cody decides to run off the stage. This dismays the audience and angers the other members of the play. Cody has never been safe from backlash for a week. In order to compensate for this, the principal orders him to participate in their town's Boy Scout camp. Unknown to Cody, Wade secretly entered the camp as well so Cody wouldn't feel alone and to earn his friendship. Throughout this event, Cody and Wade would have each other's backs in tug-of-war, survival cooking, mud crawling, and relay races. This earns Cody's affection. Also, in this camp, a boy named Gilbert Atkins tries promoting his $750 tree house. However, nobody shows interest in it. Cody and Wade then start sending mails and flowers to each other secretly, and they would also regularly telephone each other. He even lets Wade take the ladder beside their house to get to his bedroom. The following week, Cody and Wade would then often be going downtown together and would be spending time together watching the football game, buying in food booths, and seeing clown theater. At the end of the week, Cody takes Wade on a picnic in the town's blue-bonnet field. There, Cody reveals that when he was younger, he witnessed two men get killed in an irrigation ditch because of their relationship. Because of that, he became afraid of showing affection towards the boys. Wade tells him that if he breaks free of the masculine standards he thinks he's expected to conform to, he won't see him as any different. Cody then takes Wade on a hot air balloon. There, Wade tells Cody that his whole life he always shows softness and compassion towards other boys because affection was something he has never felt from his father, who is always hurting him and his sisters, and he never wanted others to feel the same way he did. The following week, Wade takes Cody in the Woodrow Pocket hiking trail and would stop on forests, streams, and rivers. There, Wade tells Cody stories he wrote and reveals he wants to be a book writer and see his work in libraries and bookstores in the future. Along the trail, they also find an active pistol gun. Despite it being dangerous, Cody takes it. Finch then tells Cody that he will not be coming home again for 3 days. Because of this, he lets Wade in their house and they would play, read books, and watch the TV there. However, on the second night, Finch unexpectedly comes home and he catches Cody and Wade together. Because of this, he tells them not to get near Cody again. He also wants Cody not to see Wade anymore. Because of this, Cody ceases to talk to Wade and eliminates all the channels of communication, such as the mailbox, the telephone, and even the ladder to his bedroom. Cody and Wade would never meet again for weeks. One day, after a Sunday Mass, Preacher Brent Burns notices that Cody was hiding something. Cody asks him what the Bible says about the invulnerability of man. Preacher Brent says Epiphany chapter 5 verse 2 says rather than being tough, stern and brash, the biblical man should be a prime example of gentleness and patience. Cody also reveals to Preacher Brent that he started to question his father's beliefs. Preacher Brent tells him that compassion won't make him less of a man, but more of even. Cody then tries to live on his normal life before, but he feels as if there's something missing now and that he could no longer go on without it. So, he goes to Wade's house and apologizes for cutting him off, and tells him he will never detach him from his life again. He then fixes the channels of communication back. The next day, Cody takes Wade on top of a hill. Wade is clueless at first until large flocks of birds flew overhead them. Cody carries Wade in his back and they run with the birds until they reach a cliff. During the 4th of July night, Cody takes Wade to Casper Park, then takes him on top of a boom tower there, where Cody asks Wade if he wants to be his best friend, and Wade says yes, all in the midst of the fireworks upsurge. When Cody comes home that night, Fish reveals that he has spotted him and Wade together again in the park. They argue over this. However, Finch goes silent when Cody tells him, if being soft is wrong, well then I'd rather be wrong. Cody then arranges a date with Wade. And that night, they had a candlelight dinner, watched a movie, walked through a ranch full of mist, and went stargazing. Eventually, when they get tired, they sit on the lakeshore and Wade tells him that he plans on traveling the world in the future. After that, Wade sneaks Cody into his house and shows him his scrapbook for drawings of his life goals, which includes to see some of the most famous places across the country, such as Mount Rushmore, the Golden Gate Bridge, the White House, the Statue of Liberty, Times Square, Yellowstone National Park, Niagara Falls, Disneyland Los Angeles, the Red Sea, and the Grand Canyon. He also wishes of doing skydiving, Rocky Mountain climbing, riding a bull for 8 seconds, flying like a bird, riding a horse across the savannah, seeing the northern lights, running across the state of Arizona, swimming with a flock of dolphins, meeting Elvis Presley, and seeing a shooting star. On the last page, Cody sees a stick figure of 2 people holding hands. However, Wade refuses to tell him what it means. After Cody leaves, Randy tells Wade he's suspicious with both of them. Wade then tells him that women get to be close to each other without being criticized and men should be treated the same. Randy then tells Wade not to see Cody anymore or he will hurt him. Wade then warns him, if you're going to lay hands on my best friend, I'm going to kill you. The next day, Cody brings up Wade's dream to be a book writer and reveals that they both have the same dream in the future. They then contemplate on writing their first book together. They then take up different jobs so they can buy the treehouse Gilbert is selling. Cody and Wade would then be using it as a haven for writing their first book for a month. They then titled the book The Deliverance of Oakberry. When the book finishes, they make a cheap drawing and glue it to the front of the book as its book cover. Cody then notices a scratch-off game in a gasoline station. He scratches off one of his slots and wins a free trip or two to the bay town of Corpus Christi. He takes Wade with him in the trip. Two mediums light Ashcraft and Landsbush then guide them during the trip. On their first day, they spend their time surfing, wakeboarding, and kayaking. Cody and Wade then spend the night on the beach and build a campfire there. There, Wade brings up Cody's emotional invulnerability, and Cody tells him that he confronts society's masculine stereotypes and that he doesn't want to look emotionally weak because he fears it will make him look less manly. However, Wade tells him that if he becomes amenable with him, he won't look at him any different. To show this, Wade lets him lay on his shoulders and cry, and Cody was able to reveal all his self-doubts, flaws, and insecurities. Later that night, he confessed to Cody that he also dreams someone will tell him the three words someday. On their second day on the beach, Slade and Lance take Cody and Wade parasailing and kitesurfing the whole morning. They then take them to their yacht and they would fish there the whole afternoon. After fishing, Wade and Cody go for a little swim outside the yacht. Unnoticed, Wade tries to get a little further from him and accidentally drowns. Due to how long he struggled under the water, he was almost traumatized. Fortunately, Cody pulls him up just in time. Cody and Wade then spend the sunset by the shore. Wade then asks Cody if he has ever held hands with someone before, to which he says no. They then proceed to talk about how it gives a feeling of safety and security, yet is condemned from being done by men, since it's considered effeminate. Wade then holds Cody's hand, and they spend the rest of the dusk walking on the shore hand in hand. The next day, they see two girls playing tank tops and they decide to follow them. Their first few attempts to catch the girls' attention were failures. However, when a man tries to arrest one of them, Cody rushes to save her. The girls then introduce themselves as Dolly and Hansie, and they spend the day with the two boys, letting them in their little yacht, motorboating with them, and letting them rub oil in their backs. That night, they had a dinner with Dolly and Hennessy, and has the pleasure of dancing with them. Dolly then gives a rose to Wade before they part ways with the girls. That night, Cody and Wade build a campfire again, and Wade asks Cody if he has ever hugged someone. However, Wade instantly remembers the school play where they were supposed to, but he ran away. Later that night, Wade suffers a nightmare that flashes back his near-death experience in the ocean. Cody wakes him up, but that doesn't stop him from crying. So Cody clasps Wade tight with his arms and cuddles with him until he calms down. On their last day on the bay, Cody and Wade stumbled upon a motorboat race contest where who would be the fastest one to get to the designated spot in the water would be rewarded with $800. Wade and Cody win the event and they go downtown to supposedly get themselves a treat. They later find themselves being chased by Larry and Joe, two men who have been the rivals in the fishing contest. This ensues a chase between them until Cody and Wade reach a dead-end sign. Larry then holds Wade's shirt and is about to punch him in the head when Cody grabs the gun he found and points it to him. Nobody hurts my best friend. Cody then takes Wade home, and as he leaves, he sees Randy smiling in the rearview mirror. The next day, Randy visits Cody in their home and talks to him. Wade wanted nothing in the world than to be loved, and I don't think it's very hard for you to do, sir, Cody says. Randy then goes on to rehabilitation and asks Wade if Cody is really special to him, and he says yes. Wade notices that Randy is starting to burn all his whipping bumps. For the following days, Wade begins to show signs of a failing health, such as headaches, nosebleeds, and loss of appetite. However, he and Randy just ignore it, since it might just be caused by the changes in the weather. 10 days later, Cody and Wade were watching a football game when Wade suddenly collapses. Cody immediately brings him home to Randy, and they immediately rush him to their town's hospital. That night, a doctor tells them they have observed abnormalities in Wade's heart, and they need to know his disease right away. Because of this, Randy has Wade confined. Hours later, the doctors have him undergo examination, and they find out Wade has a genetic heart cancer. Randy then has him undergo an operation. However, the doctors find out his cancer is terminal, and this tears Randy apart. Upon waking up and hearing this, Wade breaks down, takes out his scrapbook, and slams it against the room's mirror. His father then rushes to him and hugs him. Wade sobs that he thinks he and his dreams are being treated as a joke by fate, but Randy comforts him that every laugh and every dream is precious. Cody then goes to visit Wade. Upon his arrival in his room, Wade, with tears in his eyes, immediately tells him the news. Overwhelmed by emotions, Cody runs to Randy and asks the legitimacy of the disease. He then goes to preacher Brent and vents out his self-loathing, that he has never been a good person to anyone before. Then Brent tells him it's not always late for change. The next day, Cody brings the toys they used to play with to Wade's room to alleviate his sadness. However, Wade only vents out his frustrations and his grief that he'll never live long enough to see his dreams come true, especially becoming a book writer. Cody then runs back to Randy and asks how much time he has left, and Randy tells him he only has 2 months left to live. Cody then asks to borrow Wade's scrapbook and takes a second look at it. Cody then talks to Terrence, who says he also regrets his homophobic actions in the past. Cody then shows him Wade's scrapbook, to which Terrence replies, "This will all take a lifetime to achieve. However, to some people, a lifetime is so long that they never actually go out there and do the things they desire. And when they realize they have very little time left, that's just when it sinks into them." Cody then talks to Finch, who is almost going to be eaten by a bull in heavy schedule again. However, Cody tells him that they only have little time before he turns 18 and leaves home. Finch then talks to Wade and apologizes that he tried to restrict him from Cody's life before. Cody then asks him to help him and Wade travel the country to fulfill his life goals, to which he says yes. The next day, Cody tells Wade that he'll be helping him reach all his life goals. Wade cries and hugs him in gratitude. In less than 3 days, Cody, Wade, and Finch decide to start their journey across country. First, they visit the places Wade wanted to go to: Mount Rushmore, the Golden Gate Bridge, the White House, the Statue of Liberty, Times Square, Yellowstone National Park, Niagara Falls, Los Angeles Disneyland, the Red Sea, and the Grand Canyon. On the next 2 weeks, Cody fulfills Wade's want for the things he has always wanted to do. First, he takes Wade to Anchorage, Alaska, where the skydive 10,000 feet above ground level. Second, Cody takes him to Colorado, where they climb the Rocky Mountain of Mount Ida. Third, he has Wade registered in Wrangler NFR Rodeo, where he was able to ride for 17 seconds on a bull named Thunderclap and gets an award for it. Next, he takes Wade to Arkansas, where they do parachute flying, and with the help of strong winds that day, they elevated until cloud level. Then, Cody takes Wade in the Ponderosa Savannah in Georgia, which they cross with the help of 2 domestic horses during the whole sunset. Next, Cody takes Wade to Bowman, Montana, where they watch the northern lights the whole night. After that, Cody and Wade would run across the state of Arizona for 3 weeks until they have crossed all of its towns. They then set forth to Beaufort Ocean, Alaska, where they swim with a group of migrating pink dolphins. Next, Cody blindfolds Wade and takes him to a concert, which to his surprise is Elvis Presley's, and the singer even invites him up on stage. And lastly, they went to the Kennedy Space Center, where Wade witnesses the A-Monoceratid meteor. And finally, Cody does what he thinks the stick figure in the last page of Wade's scrapbook means, so he takes Wade on top of a cliff in the Marina del Rey beach and holds his hand. Then he says "I love you" to Wade, kisses his forehead, and hugs him. On the balcony of the hotel they were staying in, Finch apologizes to Cody that he restricted him from being close and soft to his male peers, and promises that he will be spending more time with Cody than his work. They then return Wade back to confinement, and he tells Randy all places and things he and Cody went to and did, and says he wishes he was there too. Cody would then stay beside Wade's bed for the rest of his days. Randy then thanks Cody for being a good friend to Wade and for changing and brightening up everything that was sad about his life. Cody replies that he didn't change Wade, but that Wade changed him. Randy then apologizes to Wade for being abusive to him, and that he felt the need to look for love his whole life when he should have been in their home all along. Wade tells him he forgives him and that he knows he'll be a better father to his sisters. Rosemary and Daisy then approach Wade teary-eyed, and he tells them not to cry when he's away. He also tells them that he promises to look over them. After Wade's chemotherapy, they find out he won't last for more than 2 days. Wade then gives Cody a scrapbook and tells him to keep it. When he opens it, he sees the drawings were replaced by photos that he has accomplished his life goals. But most importantly, he notices that the stick figure in the last page had been replaced by a picture of him and Wade holding hands in Marina del Rey, and with a caption, "I finally found someone who loves me." Wade then asks Cody to come closer. Cody then tells him he's sorry that he could never live long enough. However, Wade replies, "It takes 100 years for people to live their whole lives, but the whole time I was with you, it already felt like a lifetime." And lastly, he tells Cody to keep living with an open heart and without hiding his emotions. With tears in his eyes, Cody also tells him he'll miss him and that he wants to be with him for much longer. After Wade breathes his last breath, Cody puts the rose Dolly gave to him in his hand. Ever since then, Cody would become more emotionally vulnerable and affectionate towards other men. Finch would also be spending lesser time at work and more time with Cody. Randy would also visit Cody regularly and take him hunting and fishing. One day, Cody visits Dane and tells him he has a plan about his pen name, and Cody would spend the rest of his life writing books, all of which are under the pen name Wade Gilligan. The end.